Hey guys, it is the season 1 of the Iron and Anchor podcast wrap-up show.
Hey,
It's Paul Callahan and Jake Morter with you. We're excited that you have stuck around this far for our inaugural season, and it's been actually really, really good. I'm very surprised at the reaction we had to the podcast, and it kind of exceeded my expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
I wasn't. I have way more Instagram followers now. Not that was my goal. It definitely was not my goal. But I feel like that God used this to really reach some people. I had a lot of people outside of my normal interactions, contacting me and letting me know about how the podcast was affecting them and things like that. So it's been good for me. In a way, to take a look back at my story through other people telling their stories.
Absolutely. And to kind of segue on that, I felt like every episode had its own little thing that jumped out. I don't know if you guys had saw on the Instagram, we kind of try to throw a little clip from each episode, or a little quote of our favorite parts of things that you kind of like, that mic drop line, or things that, as Phil Wing said, tweetable lines. Obviously that's not the goal, but I definitely feel like there was times where it was like, oh, come on, for sure. Yeah. So
even recording it, I would leave the recordings and feel very satisfied and uplifted. But then listening to it back, it was a different experience. Hearing allowed me to dive a little bit deeper into those people that we interviewed. I was going to ask you, what was one of your favorite moments of the podcast? For me, it was Philip Osterday. He it's hard to pick one, but Philip, just how his story just evolved from where he thought he was, doing the right things and serving for the right reasons, and then growing into community, and then realizing that what that connection really was to that community just spoke a lot to me, because we have, Lisa and I have found our community in FCF, things like that. What about you, Jake? What was one kind of definable moment? And I actually just talking about this now, I just thought of another one that if it's not yours, I'll share it as well.
That's all right. I think for me, one of my, most favorite ones, I love them all, so it's hard to be like, this one was better than the rest. But I think one of the top ones for me was when we interviewed Don Reinert. And just to be able to sit with him, and he's a guy that goes to our church that, kind of everyone's like, man, he's living the dream. His life is on the outside, you think, oh, he's perfect and he's got it all together, and him and his wife love each other so much and they're doing everything so right. But it was awesome to hear that it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
And where he came from and what he went through and how he was shaped into the man that he is today and the way that he lives. And it was really encouraging to see that, and just, showing. And I know I talked to other people that had listened to that episode, and just really, them telling us that, man, that gives me hope to be able to hear someone's testimony and story that, I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And you don't have to start perfect, and there was other ones where, even the guys that grew up in Christian homes, that were raised in the church, and they even came out and said, I'm not perfect. I'm still a sinner. I was still doing this, and, I had to repent, and that kind of thing. And for me, that was really encouraging to be able to see how honest the recent men could be, and, vulnerable with everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah. So another one for me was John Bedell.
Oh yeah. Johnny B. Come on.
John's just been involved in both of our lives for quite some time, and him. I just think overall the podcast led the people that we're interviewing, and myself to really take an honest look at what God has done or where we've come from. And even in the time that we've been recording, these in that small amount of time, just in my personal life, it's opened up just avenues for God to say, "Hey, I'm not done, writing your story." And and sometimes that's hard, and sometimes that's easy.
Right.
But ultimately, it's been a good thing. And I guess part of me, I wasn't ready for maybe how challenging this was to my personal life. It opened up a lot of wounds for me. It opened, and made me look at some different aspects of my own life through the lens of other people's lives, and that was kind of challenging at times. That was. I don't know. I had to get honest at some points. With
I like when you're honest. I like when Paul gets real honest and emotional on episodes. You have to listen to the rest of them, but it just, like I said before, it's really nice when someone can be honest with everybody and actually share what's going on. Because I know for men, it's very difficult to be real and to show them that you're not a tough guy, and to show them, that we're all the same, you know, and I just wanted to tell you that it's really encouraging that you can be vulnerable and honest and,
I appreciate that.
Emotional, and every episode from here on out, you have to be. So
I have to cry every episode now.
I put a box of tissues down here on the table. So,
well, I'm an Enneagram 4, so I think that's just inherent to like my personality.
Start to choke up, and I'd be like, "Oh, come on, keep going." It's about to
he tells me that all the time. It's like whether we're having prayer service at church or something like that. Jake's like, "I love when you cry." Like, I don't mean to cry. It just happens. I'm an emotional person.
That's all right. That's all right.
But did this affect your personal life in these several months that we've been doing this at all? Like for me, I mean, really, there were some times, dealing with things with my wife and, just circumstances in our life that I think through this process, caused a lot of honesty to come up, and which is a good thing. God, moves and works, and that I think that's one of the whole goals of us, getting honest and telling our stories and reliving them in a way to allow us to grow. And in that growth, growing is not easy, and so that just took me by surprise, honestly, a little bit. I think I was expecting, wasn't expecting this to kind of overflow into my personal life.
Yeah, same for me, man. There were many times where I had left here and felt conviction, from whether it was an episode that we just recorded. Typically when we do these, we like to do two, whether it was like the first session or the second session. There were many times where I would be driving home, or I'd just get home and like think about what we just talked about and be like, man, I never thought of it like that. Yeah. Or, just feeling encouraged, not necessarily leaving and being sad or felt, anger or anything like that. It was like, man, like we're not perfect. Yeah. And, that for me is just like, I struggle with that being like, oh man, like I have to be the best of the best. But it's like seeing other dudes that live the same lives and we're all together sharing our stories. For me, it was, there were many times where I would go home and, talk to Jesse about it, or be like, man, like this is real life, and we're serving together. And it made me really appreciate the whole community aspect, because even outside of this, at church, on Sundays we'd come together and someone would come up to us and be like, oh my gosh, that last episode, it was amazing and so encouraging. And I felt convicted. And like that to me is incredible. Yeah. Even if it's one person, there may be many, many episodes and they're, however long, one person comes up to us and says, oh, that really hit me really hard. And they like changed the way they were living. And it was just like for the better, for the positive side. It's like, oh my goodness, like maybe we are doing something good. Maybe this is great, know? So, and obviously like, we're not here to just like try to get people to share their stories just so we can, put them down, but it's more so people can hear it, so they can relate and, they can come together, or it's easier for them to talk about. I know guys, that were on here, share their story, and like you look at them differently. You know what I mean? Like, not in a bad way, but it's like, oh man, like I don't have to put this guy on a pedestal anymore. Like, he's not like as amazing as I thought, but that's okay. So yeah.
I think that amazement turns into respect and
Yes.
like a humble, just gazing at them in a humble way,
Right.
saying it's like, we're all in that same boat. We're all, just, I'll use my own terms, muddling through, through this life. But God really, I was just really excited about what God did, with the podcast this season, and how He reached people that I would have never guessed, and
For
that's,
sure.
For me, that's,
Even unbelievers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes me, realize that, in certain ways, outside of this podcast, my life is probably still reaching people that I don't realize, so, that conviction for me has been like, it's like, what am I putting out there? What am I, is my walk and, with job and with home and with friendship and stuff like that more, kingdom based or what am I seeking after, so this is really, shined a light on what part of my story am I really showing people.
For sure. Yeah. And that, the next thing I, wanted to kind of bring up was for those listening, our next steps, for the, quote unquote, season 2, our goals and what we kind of want to do with the next season. If you're interested in talking about that, I think people would, I know a lot of people have been asking, like, what's the next step? Is it going to be more men? Are you going to filter in some women too? And then ultimately, at first it was like, let's just have all guys. But it's like, man, there are so many stories out there. And, say the wives of the husbands, or not even that, there are tons of stories that people could hear that women, could share, if you want to kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be taking a little summer break, quote unquote, because, life gets busy. And we have to, production wise, we have to get, kind of ramped up. So we, have all our episodes and schedules and things like that to get this done. So we're looking at probably September for, as you said, season 2 to be out there. And we are moving on, not just for men, but God's really impressed upon us to kind of venture out. I know we're going to have, we already have some women in mind who have these amazing stories of just faith and hardship and redemption that God has brought about in their stories. And I think
it's worth hearing for sure.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I'm excited about it because, as there are great men in our community, there's great women in our community as well. And I think the evolution of this moving forward is that it's not just about like one specific thing, but it's about where God has brought you from and where God is like kind of taking you now, and how that affects your walk and how that affects your faith and the faith of those around you. Because one thing I did notice in all these stories, it wasn't just the person that these stories were affecting. Like they all had this, surrounding area of community around them that it affected as well. It's almost like when you throw a rock into a pond, you get that the wave. The ripple effect. Come on. And not the butterfly effect, which was a very, very bad movie. But
Reggie and the Full Effect, that's another one.
The Reggie and the Full Effect?
It's a band.
I'm not as cool as you are, Jake. I don't know that band reference.
Pappy, come on.
But it ripples out and it affects more than we realize. And in that, I think it's really neat of just talking with some people already how one person's story might affect another person's story without even realizing it. So we just want to be able to bring just some heartfelt, deep stories about where people are and how they got there and where they think they're going and where God is leading them. So I'm excited about it.
Very, very excited.
There's one person in particular that I'm super excited about.
Who's that?
Well, I don't want to give any surprises.
I was gonna say, we definitely have some bangers in our back pocket for sure, as the kids say.
Do the kids say that?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Some good ones for sure.
Oh, okay.
I know who you're thinking of.
But this person is very close to me. But
Hopefully.
it's there's I mean, some of these are wild and crazy, so to speak, and some of them are just sweet and endearing and just lovely, and I'm excited about that. It helps. The more I talk to people about their story, it just gets me out of myself. And I think that's one thing in my walk, with God, that
For sure.
I get stuck in my head and just thinking about myself and that selfishness. And, that gets me outside of myself and really seeing this, like, I'm not alone. And, there's other people in this, small community of Dayton, Ohio, that God's really using and God's really affecting, and it's going to be great.
Absolutely. And, another thing I was going to throw out there is, depending on how long season 2 is, we do have a form on our website that you can go to if you are interested in being on the podcast. I know there's been a handful of people that have contacted us and have talked to us how excited they are and how they'd love to be a part of it. We would love to hear your story, and I'm sure many others would also. So feel free to go to ironanchor.com and fill out that form, or Paul and I are both on Instagram. Our Instagrams are on the Iron Anchor page. You can direct message us. Some people have our phone numbers. Feel free to text us. We would love to hear your story. We would love to get it out there. We can meet. But other than that, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be real good.
Everyone's got a story that they can share for sure.
Yep. Yeah. And again, if you want to share, if you know somebody that you think would maybe, with a little nudging want to share it, but has, that person may have, greatly affected you and part of their story, just reach out to us. We would love, to talk to these people and see, just hear about their stories. And guys, if you have anything that that this podcast made you think or brought about in your lives, just let us know. You can use that form online as well to let us know that. If I'm always open for ideas and moving. I mean, we're amateurs. Yeah, this was an idea,
we're just guessing how it goes.
A feeling in our hearts, and we kind of ran with it, and we're open to suggestions. We hope that I know it's been fruitful for people, but we hope that it's been fruitful and that you've enjoyed it, and that you're looking forward to more. If I think moving forward, also we want to try for a little bit more content for you guys, because I know having that regular content helps drive a narrative, so to speak. In that vein, I want to give a shout out to Justin Morter.
Come on, you read my mind.
Yeah, who did all the video, all the artwork and graphics, and the YouTube channel and the website. I mean, there's people I know that's all they listen to, is they watch it on YouTube, which is awesome. That way you get to see that interaction, you get to see really the conversation that took place and not just hear it. And it's been great, and the quality, and we wouldn't look as good as we do without Justin. Amen. Because I definitely don't look that good. So thank you, Justin, for that.
Yes.
Super appreciate.
He's behind the camera right now cheesing. So
I know, he's just
all of these
chilling.
Messages are brought to you by Justin Morter Designs.
Yes.
But yeah, as far as thank yous go, thank you to all the guests that we've had so far. FCF Dayton for letting us set up shop in the church basement.
Yep.
It's been awesome for sure. And
thank you to our wives who allow us to to ditch out, you know,
for a few hours.
Yep.
We're saying this like we're saying our goodbyes, but we're just wanted to give you guys kind of a end of season tag along kind of thing, and how excited we are for the next, and to thank everyone who's listened and share the word for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can still find us on Instagram at ironandanchor.com, on Facebook, YouTube. So, re-listen to those episodes during the summer while you're waiting for the next ones, and we will hopefully hear our voices soon.
Come on, catch you then.
Yeah, y'all have a good summer.